Now I wanted to do a sort of humorous video on some of the stupid stuff I keep hearing in the comments that people shout. There's an expression that normally the stupidest people shout the loudest, and I think all the stupidest people shout the loudest, and I think that's often true with YouTube comments. I get lots of good comments from people, but then I also get comments that are just a bit ugh. So, what are some of the funniest ones I've read? Well, some people, I get this quite a lot, where people see a film or they play a game and they think that game or film is evidence of, you know, what a gas mask's actual use is or who used it. So, obviously, I'm sure you know that works of fiction aren't necessarily very accurate. So, if you have a film or a game where somebody from a certain army is using a mask that's from a completely different army, I've had people argue in the comments before that I'm wrong because in Call of Duty somebody wore this gas mask, therefore, you know, the actual origin of the mask is irrelevant or something like that. I've also keep getting people shout about Rainbow Six Siege and games like that where they say, no, this operator wears this mask or it looks this way in this game, therefore you're wrong about this. So that's another, oh no, please don't use a game or a film as, you know, your realism chart for gas masks. That's a big one that sort of, you know, I've done a video about what films and games get wrong about gas masks, and there's quite a lot of different things, but apparently some people think films and games are the biblical truth, you know, when it comes to gas masks and things like that, and that's why it's also quite irritating when, you know, you obviously have films that are nowhere near realistic where people get shot lots of times and don't die, you know, and then people still think that that's a good film, you know, to use as a gas mask influence over what's real and not real. Another one is asbestos. Obviously, I don't like to keep going on about asbestos, but it always comes up. And it's either this mask doesn't have asbestos in when we know it certainly does, so with GP5 filters as far as I'm aware, or GP5 filters that have been tested, which is dozens, all came back positive. I think there was one that's been tested so far, I've heard, that wasn't asbestos, didn't have asbestos in, but if that's like a 99 point something, you know, percent chance at this point that your GP5 filter is going to have asbestos in, why would you risk it? But you also get the other way around where people are claiming mask filters that are totally fine have asbestos in. Lots of people like to shout that the masks themselves have asbestos in. Maybe there's a couple of examples of that, but I keep getting people say, like, name of modern mask contains asbestos. No, it really doesn't. Again, you could put a GP5 filter on a lot of modern masks, I guess, if you wanted to have asbestos in your modern mask, but, you know, there's no real truth to that. But as I said, it seems to get repeated lots and lots of things like that, get shouted about, and, you know, there's, like, no truth to almost any of that, which is quite irritating. So yeah, there's just like sort of lots of things like that where people will say something that's clearly not true, that they've not fact checked, and they'll shout it as it's the gospel truth in you know, the video comments, which really annoys me, especially when other people then go, oh, somebody else said that in the comments, so it must be true. You know, I've had people talk about famous historical dates and, you know, say these people use this gas mask, and again it's because it was in a film or they've not done their research properly. Because the way I see it is that's misinformation. Really, you should always be trying to get the most accurate information forward and presenting it. Like, obviously, there's times when I'll get stuff wrong just because I've researched stuff. Not always, even when you're looking at sites that should be reliable, is the information reliable. Sometimes I make mistakes. I don't do that on purpose. I'm not trying to mislead anyone. Sometimes I might say something that's just not true, not, you know, just because, or slightly wrong, because a site's got the wrong information when I've tried to research something. But then there are people, you know, who just don't do any research whatsoever, or base their research off of films and games and just say really weird random stuff when it comes to gas masks. So there's that. As I said, I've done other videos where I've moaned about lots of the common things where I'll get, you know, every now and then somebody say the exact same thing in the comments. But, you know, I've also had the thing, this does annoy me, that I'll do a video where I'm wearing a mask and the mask contains asbestos, so I'm specifically not breathing with the mask on. And then people say, like, oh my god, you're going to die of lung cancer because you have that mask on. And I say, no, because I held my breath wearing a mask. No, you still inhale the asbestos. You see, you need to actually be breathing to inhale asbestos. If there's asbestos in the mask filter, you hold your breath, put the mask on for a bit to do something on the camera, take the mask on, and then you resume breathing. You're not inhaling asbestos. But on every video where I end up putting an asbestos filtered mask on, hold my breath, but people always inevitably go, oh my god, you wore the asbestos mask, you're going to get lung cancer now. Doesn't work like that, but, you know, it is a bit frustrating having to read things like that. Another thing, although I've addressed it several times, is I keep getting asked which brand the ABEC filters are and which masks the ABEC filters fit on. As I've said, ABEC filters are not like 40mm or whatever. ABEC filters or whatever the manufacturer makes them in. You can get ABEC filters in pretty much any filter configuration. So you obviously just buy the filters your mask takes in ABEC classification. ABEC isn't the brand of the filter, nor is it the connector of the filter. But even though I've addressed it, sometimes even in the comments on the video where I've talked about ABEC filters, people still ask the same questions. Another thing that isn't necessarily related to gas masks, but it does really annoy me in the comments, is when people are watching a video, I'll say something in the video and then they'll repeat it back as a question or a statement to try and sound smart. Parroting something I've said isn't smart. And again, I'm not necessarily smart because I've looked something up on the internet and found out it's true and then, you know, included it in the video. But what you'll get is, like, I'll say something like, this is a good one from my top 10 scary gas mask video. I will say, you know, the Combine masks from Half-Life 2 were influenced by Soviet gas masks because a lot of the Combine designs took influence from Soviet, you know, designed things. So here you can see, like, this mask, you know, like the PMG bears a resemblance to Metrocop mask, whatever the SHMS bears a resemblance to Metrocop mask. And somebody goes like, oh my god, that's the Metrocop mask. Oh, look, I figured that out. Or, you know, something along those lines. Or, oh, did you know that the Valve must have based their things off of that? When I went to school, there was a kid that was a real brown-noser that would love to stick his hand up as soon as the teacher said something and go, Miss, Miss, and then repeat back what she said, phrased as a question to try to sound smart, and he was just a dickhead. You know, it's just stuff like that. And while I'm on the subject of top 10 scary gas masks, because I was speaking about that, the thing that really irritates me in that video is I have quite a lot of people I keep blocking because they come onto the video and, like, saying there's top 10 scary gas masks. I don't find most masks very scary at all. I think some of them look a bit creepy. But I thought I'll do a list, you know, for people who find them a bit creepy. And I'll definitely try and do it, you know, the ones that look creepy and creepy. And then I get people that go in the comments, oh my god, you were such a pussy, that is not a scary mask. Oh my god, what, you were such a wimp, why do you find these masks scary? Do you have a phobia of gas masks? Don't shame gas masks, they're there to save people's lives, not scare them. You know, that just always gets to me, because, you know, you do a video on the subject just because you think people might find it interesting, and then you get insulted for doing the subject because I'm gas mask shaming or something like that. Should be a hashtag. But, you know, it's just all stuff like that. It seems, because I guess because it's YouTube, it's lowest common denominator stuff. You can't do anything without people who are as ignorant as possible coming on and saying stupid things. And I don't want that to sound like an attack on the people who leave good comments. You know, I do get lots of really good comments on YouTube. You know, talk to a lot of great people, but please try and do a bit of self-thinking before you spout something into the comments that's just going to embarrass you. Because, yeah, there's a lot of very odd things and silly things I read in the comments on a daily basis that do really just make me, you know, facepalm like that and go, oh no. But, you know, there we go. That's my rant over for today, but I just had to share it with you because I thought it was quite funny with all this stuff, you know, that I constantly read about.